स्टडी IQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Hello students, welcome to StudyIQ's initiative, the podcast. I am your host Dipansh Murjani. So tighten your belts because it is time for the podcast of the day. In our last episode, we discussed about Indian federalism, and in today's episode, we are going to discuss issues which are related to federalism. Sir, when we talk about federalism, then how can we understand federal spirit in simple words?
On January 26, 1950, when the Indian Constitution came into force, it was a big step for the nation that had laws to achieve the ideas of justice, equality, liberty and fraternity. In a country of subcontinental proportions, it is necessary that the ideals mentioned in the preamble to the Constitution should extend to all levels of governance. The overall emphasis was on equality in the Constitution is visible in all arrangements made around the federal spirit and ideas. Conscious of the differential needs of the populations of different states, the drafters of Constitution made provisions for an equitable share of powers and responsibilities among different levels of government. Unfortunately though, India in recent years has been witnessing the worst assault on the federal system and on its institutions.
Sir, before discussing the issues related to federalism, we want you to explain us what are the provisions mentioned in our constitution that ensure federalism in India.
Nature of Indian federalism. A federalism theorist K.C. Ware has argued that the nature of Indian constitution is quasi-federal. In this context, the Supreme Court in Satpal vs. State of Punjab and ORS in 1969 held that the Constitution of India is more quasi-federal than federal or unitary. Constitutional provisions for ensuring federalism are with respect to the legislative powers of state and centre are traceable to the articles of 245 to 254 of Indian Constitution. Even the list in the 7th schedule of Indian Constitution, which are union list, state list and concurrent list, also gives us a glimpse of equitable share of powers, wherein each level of government has its own spheres, enabling context-sensitive decision-making. And through Article 263, it provided for a establishment of interstate council for smooth transition of business between the union and state and resolve any dispute arises between those. Even Article 280 provide the establishment of Finance Commission to define the financial relationship and terms between union and state.
Sir, can you share some information on important amendments related to federalism?
The institutions for local self-government were added through 73rd and 74th amendments. This ultimately strengthened the grassroots democracy, and it shows that the decentralized power towards the local bodies and local self-government was indeed a federal feature towards it.
Sir, in India, to strengthen federalism, there are some institutions. So can you throw some light on institutions which strengthen the federalism of our country?
Institutions of federalism, the Planning Commission always had space for discussions on issues concerning the federal nature of the polity and was sensitive to different developments, requirements of state. The interstate tribunals, the National Developmental Council and other informal bodies have served as vehicles of consultations between union as well as state. These bodies have been very instrumental in tackling different issues democratically through deliberations while upholding the cooperative spirit between union and state.
Sir, for any UPSC aspirant, it becomes mandatory to understand the challenges which the Indian federalism is facing. So can you throw some light on those challenges?
Definitely, Dipansh, in recent times and in the recent past also, Indian federalism have faced some challenges. The first I would like to quote is ineffective functioning of several bodies. The Planning Commission has been scrapped. The Interstate Council has met only once in the last 7 years, while the National Development Council has not met at all. These events had led to obstructions in upholding the cooperative spirit between the union and state. And these defunct bodies also shows that there is a less democratic way to resolve issues between the state and union. The next important issue is issues in tax regime. The less convenient goods and services tax (GST) has already taken away much of the autonomy available to states and has made the country's indirect tax regime unitary in its nature. During the pandemic, the union government repeatedly violated the compensation guarantees to the state under the GST regime. It delayed the payments for states their due, worsened the impact of economic slowdown during the pandemic and after also. The next important issue of Indian federalism is facing is that encroachment upon states' autonomy in state subjects. Many important and politically sensitive decisions have been taken in the past few years without reference to the consultation with the concerned states. For example, Article 370 was removed without consulting the state legislature. Parliament legislated on agriculture in the state list to enact the 3 contentious farm laws, overstepping its jurisdiction and imposing a law on the states. The recent examples of New Education Policy 2020 has also been flagged as encroaching on the federal nature of the polity. The important BSF jurisdiction was extended in Assam, West Bengal, Punjab without any consultation with the concerned states. The next bone of contention in federalism is the impact of COVID-19. The states were curtailed in aspects relating to COVID-19 management, such as procurement of testing kits, vaccination, the use of Disaster Management Act 2005, and the unplanned national lockdown. Moreover, the ill-prepared government during the second wave countered criticism by claiming health as a state subject.
Sir, for any UPSC aspirant, it becomes important to understand all the aspects of a situation. So when it comes to federalism, what are the solutions going ahead?
Being an aspirant, it is very important to understand and analyze the issues which are related to any topic. However, we need to understand that there are some way forwards for any issues which are pertaining in our society and also in our government. Recognition of federalism is one of the solutions or way forwards can be taken up. It should be underlined that Article 1 of the Constitution declares that India, that is Bharat, is a union of states, and that devolution of powers is necessary in such a setting where federalism is always upholded. A conscious recognition of the federal character of India's polity is very much essential to protect its national character. A struggle at all levels shall be waged against those who try to usurp the federal rights of the other, be it in the local level government against the states or the state government against the union or central government. The next important way forward can be a strengthening interstate relations. State governments shall consider developing human resource to support them in preparing responses to the consultation initiated by union, especially with a focus on the federalism angle. Instead of reaching out to each other only during crisis situation, chief ministers may create forums for regular engagement on the issues. This would be crucial in the advocacy of major demands like the extension of GST compensation to 2027 and inclusion of cess in the divisible pool of taxes. The next way forward can be bringing reforms while balancing a federalism. A diverse country in India requires proper balance between the pillars of federalism. Pillars as per se autonomy of states, centralization and regionalization. Extreme political centralization or chaotic political decentralization shall be avoided as both lead to the weakening of Indian federalism. Proper utilization of the institutional mechanism of interstate council must be ensured to develop political goodwill between center and state on continuous policy issues.
Sir, thank you for giving us the information. Dear listeners, now it is time to bid you a goodbye, but you all don't have to worry because we will be back soon with another episode of the podcast. Till then, keep studying and stay connected with StudyIQ. You can listen to StudyIQ presents the podcast on various audio streaming platforms such as Kuku FM, Spotify, Hubhopper, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, etc. Links are pinned in the comment section below. Thank you.